Inside the Gay Tech Mafia. This article came out yesterday and is causing a bit of a stir. Let's break it down. In this article, the investigative journalist Zoe Bernard gives us a sneak peek into the insular and power laden world of gay Silicon Valley. As she says here, she interviewed 51 people, 31 of whom were gay men, many of which were very influential investors and entrepreneurs of startups. As someone who does a lot of interview research on sexuality and queer culture, I think there are some things she did really well here and some critiques I have. Much like this cover image they went with, the article really vacillates between giving like rich, in-depth look into a particular social world where sex and money and business are all kind of intermingled, and kind of just another expose where the expose is just a woman discovering really basic things about gay male social life and feeding it to the broader public in a sort of exoticized way. And she's like kind of aware of this. She says the problem with conspiracy theories, even offensive ones, is that they're rarely wholly invented. They almost always arise from some fragment of truth, which the imagination then contorts. She does a really good job of giving rich portrayals of this social world. She has some great quotes from people who are giving like really rich kind of insider looks into the entangledness of capital and power and sexual desirability and social cohesion among sexual minority men. There's lots of juicy stories about networking and hooking up and wondering if people want to invest in you or get with you and, rising the ranks through your gay networks, whatever. Now, as a sociologist, I think her article would have been improved with a greater attention on power and the quantitative data that she cites. And, journalism isn't sociology, so, feel free to disagree, but here we go. I think her characterization of this world would read a little less like an outsider kind of exoticizing this if she just contextualized it more, especially with regards to race, gender, and capitalism. She acknowledges that in some ways, the networks and hierarchies among gay men kind of just mirror other networks and hierarchies among men broadly in Silicon Valley, which is totally true. But she doesn't really talk about the whiteness of it all, you know what I mean? Like, I would have loved some demographic information on the backgrounds of her interviewees, and even if race and ethnicity didn't come up in her interviews that much, that itself is information, right? Like, we know Silicon Valley is extremely white and Asian. If we're gonna get balls deep into like the power dynamics and beauty economy and capital economy among this community, you need to give like a full rounded view, you know? Additionally, she depicts these gay men as kind of like a powerful cabal where you gotta fuck someone to get in or at least have them want to fuck you. And she has lots of quotes from straight men being like, oh, things would be so much easier if I was gay. I should have just let that gay investor hit on me or like get with me. Like, it kind of depicts an industry where predatory gay men are at the very top and running everything. And I mean, she refers to it as the gay tech mafia, but refutes this framing in her own writing in this parenthetical, where one gay man she interviewed literally says, it's not that there is some kind of gay mafia. And then she's like, that's kind of true. According to data between 2000 and 2022, only 0.5% of startup funding went to LGBTQ founders. And that's not even just gay men, that's all LGBTQ founders, right? And the source she even cites it from is like 0.5% of funding went to LGBTQ founders, even though queer people make up like maybe 7% of the population. Calling a group the mafia isn't just calling them like tight knit or secretive, it's also saying that they're on top and have a lot of power and control over other people who aren't in the group. And it's like, yeah, did some straight men make kind of half joking, half not comments about how they wish they were gay so they could get a leg up and climb the ladder? Yeah, but if you zoom out, this is an insular, like marginalized kind of community system and network of sociality and in group relationships among a broader web of capital and Silicon Valley employees and founders and investors who are not queer and have more power overall. Like, an average gay boy trying to break in might have an in more than an average straight boy because of that identity and network. But the totality of the picture is not an industry fully run by gays, even if there is like a contingency of powerful gays, who engage with each other. Additionally, right, she talks about the high volume of unwanted sexual contact or sexual pressure or like uncomfortable ambiguity that exists in these networks. One interview he talks about sex pests who people know are just like always annoying and send unwanted pictures or make passes at people. Okay, but the thing is, like, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but the characterization of an in group of high achieving gay men who sleep with each other and do business with each other and sometimes like sexually harass each other could honestly probably be in any industry. Like, I'm sure the high amounts of capital and the eliteness like intensify or exacerbate things, but a lot of what she describes I have seen in industries and far away from venture capital in Silicon Valley. I mean, she says of the 31 gay men she interviewed, 9 said they experienced unwanted advances from other gay men in the industry. But if we listen to and compare this to the experiences of women in the industry, it seems a lot less like exceptional. In her sample, about 29% of gay men experienced unwanted advances. But, this article in 2015 talks about how 60% of women in Silicon Valley have experienced that. And, like, she was doing interviews, not a survey, so she's not necessarily making, like, a statistical claim about the true proportion who have experienced it. But, like, if we're going to compare the gay male sociality to what women experience in this male dominated field, it looks actually, like, less extreme than that. Like, the real story of exploitation and sexual pressure here probably still is with straight people writ large, even if it still exists in gay male spaces and works differently and is interesting to characterize. And lastly, like, these people are interesting and they seem important, and we're talking about their sociality, and oh my God, do they actually go to, those kinds of parties with each other or not, and blah blah blah. And it's like, girl, at the end of the day, these are fucking capitalists. Talk about gay capital, like it's fabulous and interesting, but like these people are ruining society and the planet in a lot of ways, many of them. So ultimately, like, I feel like this deep, rich characterization of this social world could have been framed and contextualized better, right? By centering, racial ethnic differences, or, comparing experiences with those of women or other people in the industry, or thinking more structurally about capital and like what these people do all day with it. And maybe in an uncharitable way, it's like kind of giving Fujoshi watching Heated Rivalry vibes a little bit. If your informants are like, this isn't a mafia, and other statistics reveal that the amount of dollars flowing to like queer entrepreneurs is low, and that, more sexual violence and harassment is experienced by women, then painting the gays of Silicon Valley as like an omnipotent mafia that like straight men have to like give their bodies to in order to progress in the field is maybe a little intellectually disingenuous. Even though the networking and tight knitness and interesting dynamics among gay men are something that people have talked about and know about, and that like people know is very real.